When skimming through a Facebook group called the Nintendo Over 30s Club, I know it's hard to believe I'm over 30, right? I came across an interesting topic. There was a guy by the name of Daniel Leonard, if that's your real name. He actually asked a very interesting question. What is the difference between the Nintendo version of Tetris and the Tengen version of Tetris? Besides the black cartridge, a lot of people would think that maybe these two games are exactly the same. When in all actualities, this one is worth $5 online and this one is worth $75 online. What's the difference? Well, in today's Ralph's Retrospect, we're not only going to go over the differences, but we're going to find out which one is better. And if you're ready, let's do this. The reason that the Tengen Tetris is so rare and fetching a high price is kind of a long story, but in short, Tengen, which was Atari's console gaming subsidiary, tried to enter Nintendo's gaming market and tried to get a less restrictive licensing deal with Nintendo, but they refused. This led to Tengen secretly undermining Nintendo's infamous lockout chip, as they had obtained the copyright documentation under very suspicious circumstances, and created their own chip to bypass it. When Nintendo found out, they pulled no stops to bringing litigation against Atari. During all this, the Tetris craze had already taken Russia by storm. It was being passed around like the Walking Dead virus and people were eating it up, and in a short period of time, the game passed into Atari's hands. But not just Atari's, Nintendo's as well. In an unfortunate turn of events, both companies had obtained a license to create their very own version of Tetris illegally. You see, all intellectual property belonging to citizens of the Soviet Union belonged to the communist regime. The Russian state had not granted licensing of Tetris to any company or any country, and the Red State wasn't going to stand idly by while they were being cheated out of their compensation. This was all due to a mishandling of the license by a Russian company called L-Org, who thought they had the right to sell the license, but in all actuality did not. Learning quickly how to play the capitalist game, Russia entertained bids for the Tetris license by Nintendo and two other competitors, with Nintendo eventually winning out. Atari soon received a cease and desist order to stop all production of its versions of Tetris and created about 50,000 units. There's so much more to the story, I highly recommend a documentary called Tetris from Russia with Love. It not only details the history of all the events that were taking place, but it actually interviews the people who are directly involved. So a few questions remain. What are the differences between these two games, and which one is better? Well, since Nintendo won the war, we're going to go ahead and start with that one first. So I'm over here at my friend Brian's house. Brian, say hi.
Hi.
We're going to start with the Nintendo version, and I want to get your feel on what you think about things like the graphics, the sound, the gameplay, things of that nature. And with that, let's go ahead and start. Go ahead and hit start. Okay, so right off the bat, we've got A-type and B-type. A-type is the kind where basically it'll keep falling. You stack to the top until you die. B-type is the one where you have to hit so many lines before you go to the next level. So whichever one you want to try is fine, but why don't you try also the music? So we've got... Now this one is the weird one. This doesn't sound like Tetris.
Kind of sounds like Mega Man.
It does kind of sound like Mega Man. So go back to 2. So this one's a very... It's not too bad. Go back to 1. I think this is the one that everybody pretty much knows the best. Fairly basic. Okay, pick which type you want to play and let's get started. Yeah, 0 is a good one to start. So right off the bat, we've got like a gray exterior with looks like the blocks are blue and purple. I think they do change colors once you get so far. At what point in time do you think Tetris was probably the most popular game on the planet at one point in time?
I'd say, yeah, probably around the time that it came out on Game Boy.
Yeah, the Game Boy. I think that was definitely the first time I played it. Was that the first time you played it too?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you know, it's funny, they actually have a history of that. Originally, the Game Boy was gonna be packed in with Super Mario Land, but the feedback they got was that if you want to market it to kids, go ahead and put Super Mario Land with it, but if you want to market it to everybody, you should put Tetris with it. And when they did, it just blew up. People absolutely loved it. Oh yeah, it does change colors. Okay, so that's interesting. So when it changes colors, the entire palette swaps. So there's no differing colors. Like you're not going to get a red piece and a green piece and a blue piece. It's interesting. So this is the quintessential version of Tetris because it's the only one that Nintendo was licensed for, and people really, this is the one everybody got acclimated to. There are a lot of people who say this one is the more polished version. I don't know if I necessarily agree with it. I think it looks good. I think it's fine for what it is, but that's my opinion. I don't know. Okay, well, we can probably go ahead and stop here. Go ahead and pause. Okay, so what do you think so far of would you say, you said the gameplay is standard, right? Mm-hmm. Pretty standard. Okay, we're going to compare that to the Tengen one here in a second. But what do you think about the sounds?
Sounds seem fine, just pretty basic.
Okay, and what do you think about the music selection?
Music is good.
I think the music's okay. I think the first and second one definitely bring out the Russian spirit, but the third one just sounds weird. Okay, what do you think of the color scheme? The gray with the different changing colors. Like, there's not a variety.
Yeah, there wasn't much of a variety, but it's easy to tell what's going on the screen. So.
Okay. Cool. All right. Well, we've got the first game down. Now we're gonna try the Tengen version of Tetris. Cool. You ready? Let's do this. Okay. So immediately right off the bat, we've got the Tengen Tetris. The music is already going. Sounds pretty good. You've got the Russian themes, the fireworks and stuff. The presentation, I think, already is kind of better in this one, just from the start screen. So go ahead and hit start. You remember there were only two game modes in the Nintendo version. There's Type A and Type B. This one has one player, two player, which I don't know if you noticed, the original Tetris on Nintendo doesn't have two player. That's almost like a staple with Tetris, right? You want to play with your friends, you want to play against each other. But you can't do that on the Nintendo version. So go ahead. Oh, look, we've also got cooperative, where the one and two player can play together to try and land blocks. It's pretty interesting. Versus the computer, so you can have you can basically play against the computer, or you can play with the computer to try and stack blocks, which is a mode that I don't think has actually been replicated on any other version of Tetris. So with that said, let's go ahead and pick two players. I want to go against you. Okay, we'll do level 0. Okay, so you can see with this, the handicap is actually a new thing that the other version didn't have either. So,
okay. Oh, okay, it's automatic. Actually, I guess it would only be 4 since the first one is nothing.
Actually, you know what? The funny thing is Atari did the arcade version of Tetris, and this is almost a exact copy of what they have. I remember this song in the arcade. This is like the second or third level. Like, it changes throughout the arcade. It changes different music when you go through it. Okay, go ahead and get. Yeah, see, these are all ones I remember from the arcade playing. I love the arcade one. But anyway, so what's the last one? Audio by Brad Fuller. You did an awesome job, Brad Fuller. Okay, so let's just pick one. Alright, so now look, we're playing two players. This is where we couldn't do that before. Prepare to die. Both trying to go for that Tetris. Okay, so this is interesting. So you'll notice that when the blocks hit, they're different colors, but when the blocks hit, they all turn gray. So that's something to consider. You know, it's funny, my kids I just introduced them to Tetris over the weekend because they'd never seen it or played it before. And my youngest daughter had the Tetris, the first song, like, memorized. She was humming it while she was playing. It was so funny. It's like, I know, it's so addictive to get stuck in your head.
The sound effect when you clear a line kind of reminds me of Friday the 13th for some reason.
30 lines. It stops. So you get your little dancers out. You've got goes up and tallies up our totals. And then when you hit start, they're all like, see ya. And then it starts you off right where you left off. Is that a little jarring?
Yeah, a little bit.
It is a little jarring because
it's definitely different.
Yeah, because you're used to either the thing starting over, which does in Type B of the Nintendo version, even in the Game Boy version, it does that. When you've beaten a level, it starts you over. It starts you from scratch. But in this one, it just makes you keep going. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and do the actual cooperative version and see how we can do like working together to clear the lines. This is just something you normally don't see. There you go, let's do that one. Oh my goodness, this is crazy. Follow my lead, Brian. Just kidding, you can do whatever you want. Okay. Get out of my way, Brian! I'm trying to clear some lines.
So we always get the same pieces, apparently. It looks like you can actually block the other player if you want to.
Working together, right? Yeah, right.
Oh.
Oh, my... Brian! We're supposed to be working together. Hold on. You killed me, Billy.
Sometimes it can get a little confusing as to who you are because you get the same pieces at the same time.
So weird. That's kind of cool, though.
It's definitely challenging.
Where are our line pieces? What does this game have against line pieces? I don't get it.
This is definitely
This is insane! Wow. We got all of 3 lines. So, I mean, it's crazy. Like, so you're trying to work with other people, you're trying to think what they're going to do, and then they go do something, and you're like, no, what are you doing? But, so that was interesting. So, why don't you play cooperative with the computer? Let's see what happens with that. Go with computer. So the computer is playing, and it's going to do whatever it wants to do. So you kind of have to work around that. And see, it's changing its pattern when you... Oh, see, like it changed its pattern there. It's like, ooh, this is better.
So it looks like it does adapt to the player somewhat.
That's cool. That's actually really neat. So there you have it. So those are the differences. So now let me ask you this. What do you think of the gameplay of this one? Is it fairly similar to the other one?
Yeah, I'd say gameplay-wise, they're both very similar. There's not a lot of variation between them.
Okay. The graphics, the overall presentation, what do you think? Which one do you think is better?
I like the graphics to this version better, the Tengen version.
I would agree because I think it's more vibrant. Like, it's not gray. Like, the Nintendo version is just gray. But I do think that the colors are more vibrant. What do you think about the music choices?
I kind of like the music to both. They're a little different, so I think it's just going to be dependent on the mood you're in at any given time. They both have a couple songs that are, you can tell they're Russian. They have a Russian theme.
Sure.
The Tengen version doesn't have the Mega Man one. That's fine because that's probably not what I would play often when I'm wanting to play Tetris anyway.
Yeah.
Overall, I would say the Tengen version is better. Just the extra options, the ability to play 2-player adds a whole new element to the game, makes it a lot more challenging.
Yeah.
And so far in the test play, I had the most fun with the 2-player modes than...
You know, it's funny because my daughters and my kids are trying to get into Tetris. I think the cooperative mode would actually be very good for them because they don't understand. They're trying to wrap their head around it, and I think if I could play with them and help them, I think that would actually be better. And honestly, I'm gonna say overall, I think the Tengen one is better. Had the story been different about the Russian battle for Tetris, if it had played out differently, I think this one actually would have been better. I think this one would have won out. I think people would have enjoyed this one. Not to say that they don't enjoy the original Tetris, but there's some things lacking in it. But that's just our overall opinion. I think that if you think that the Nintendo version one is better, I mean, that's fine too. I think they both serve their purpose. I just think that the presentation is just a little bit better in Tengen. But still. But yeah. All right, Brian, thanks for playing Tetris with us. Mm-hmm. And we're going to go ahead and finish this segment. So those are the differences between the games, and it is pretty significant. So I'm interested in hearing which one you guys think is your favorite. So if you could, comment down below. And if you did like this video, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you guys on the next Ralph's Retrospect. See ya!